My last video in Pokemon Emerald was using a love disc, so today I wanted to do something that was just a little bit easier. Today, I'm going to beat the game with only a Tropius. The other rules for this playthrough are that I can't use any items in battle, I'm not allowed to use any glitches or exploits, and I can't use the TM for Double Team until my Pokemon is level 100. After all, that move is pretty boring and very broken. So now let's talk about Tropius, and its base stats are quite strange. Like, they were just thinking, like, we can't give this dinosaur banana tree Pokemon any stats that, like, are nice numbers. It has 99 HP, 68 attack, 83 defense, 72 special attack, 87 special defense, and 51 speed. So these stats are all just sort of okay, with the exception of the speed stat, which is quite bad. At least in a solo playthrough, I'm going to get the speed boost from Wattson's badge, which gives me 10% more speed, and I'm also going to gain EVs, which the opponent AI Pokemon don't get. Tropius's defense and special defense are both pretty good, but unfortunately its attack and special attack are slightly lower. However, luckily for me, they're both quite evenly balanced, so I didn't really want to increase either one of them, and as a result, I chose to go with a hardy nature for this playthrough. If you're not really up to date on what all the natures do, hardy is neutral, it doesn't boost or lower any stats. Okay, so moving on from the stat spread, let's talk about abilities. Tropius is going to have chlorophyll, which boosts its speed when it's in the sun. That's pretty nice because it does get access to sunny day. By the way, solar power was introduced in Generation 4, so that's why I don't have access to that ability. Now, while everything up until this point has not been that impressive, at least its move pool, while not that big, is quite good. It starts with Leer and Gust, which actually combo together quite well. Gust is a flying type move, so it's physical in Generation 3, and Leer lowers the opponent's defense. Then, at level 7, Tropius is going to get access to Growth to boost its special attack, and at level 11, it gets access to the fantastic Razor Leaf. Obviously, we're not in Generation 1 anymore, so boosting my special attack stat and then getting a crit with Razor Leaf is just going to do a lot of damage. Beyond that, it gets some other good moves through Level Up, Stomp, Magical Leaf, Body Slam, Solar Beam, and Synthesis. Through TMs and HMs, the notable moves are Bullet Seed, Sunny Day, Giga Drain, Solar Beam, Earthquake, Aerial Ace, Steel Wing, and Fly. So with all of that out of the way, now let's jump into the playthrough and fight the rival for the first time. Of course, he's going to pick Torchic because that is the Pokemon that is strongest against my Pokemon. I just think that this is the fairest way to play these games. I know in Yellow version, I'm always facing the Evolution that I think is easiest to defeat, but these games are programmed, so you're always going up against the foe that is most difficult. So I feel like I should play these challenges in the spirit that the games were designed. Now I want to note here, after I knock the Torchic out, watch my Tropius's experience. It goes up, but it doesn't level up. And that's even after I got some experience knocking out wild Pokemon getting to this battle. And what that means is Tropius is a slow growth rate Pokemon. If you weren't already aware, there are 6 growth rates in Generation 3. Fast, slow, medium fast, and medium slow. Those were the 4 that were introduced in Generation 1. And then in Generation 3, 2 more were introduced, which are fluctuating and erratic. I'm going to talk about those 2 later on because they are quite complicated. Now right now, I'm going to do my best to rank the first 4 growth rates that were introduced. I'm not going to rank fluctuating and erratic because I have no experience with them in solo playthroughs, so that doesn't feel fair quite yet. But I have a lot of experience with the other 4 because I've made like so many Pokemon Yellow videos. It's very important to note that I am ranking these based on how they perform in solo playthroughs when time is an essential metric. So slow growth rate is definitely worst, and surprisingly, the medium slow growth rate is the best. If we look at my Pokemon Yellow tier list, all of the Pokemon in the S tier have this growth rate. Other Pokemon that have quite good stats with, say, a slow growth rate have just not performed nearly as well. Second best is fast because in the late game you can level up very quickly. We saw that with the Love Disc playthrough last week. And then we have the medium fast growth rate filling in the last spot second to last. It's not that bad, but it's like not great if you want to level up quickly to defeat Brock, something like that. So unfortunately today, Tropius is going to be working against its growth rate, and I anticipate that this will cause it to be placed fairly low in the Emerald tier list. So one consequence of this is that I am going to need to fight all of the trainers in the early game, which is going to take more time. Luckily for me, doing this gives Tropius level 11 where it learns Razor Leaf, and this is right before I head into Roxanne's gym to face a bunch of rock types. I make sure to fight all of the gym trainers, and with them out of the way, it is now time to face our first gym leader. Okay, so Roxanne should be easy. I go for Razor Leaf against Geodude, it does 4 times damage, and her lead goes down. Okay, Tropius levels up to level 13 over a damage rounding threshold. The next Geodude is obviously a one-hit as well, so now it's time for her Ace Nose Pass. As a kid, I was always surprised that this thing didn't go down to a single hit from a move like Razor Leaf. After all, the Geodudes did, so this thing should be the same, but no, it's a mono rock type, so it's not taking 4 times damage, and it also has decent special defense. Because of this, I'm not able to do half damage to it. This gives Roxanne time to use potions and get to eat its berry and stuff like that, but eventually I knock it out with Tropius not even dropping under half health, so that was an easy first badge. I save Pico, and after that I head back and face Brendan. I'm doing this just because I want the extra experience. Also, it's worth noting that I am playing May in all of my Emerald playthroughs. It's actually a tip that I got from speedrunners because they like to play May. There is less dialogue when Brendan is the foe, and his teams are also not as good. I finish him off here, and with that I can head back to the forest where I cut a tree, and behind it is this girl. When you talk to her, she's going to give you the Miracle Seed, which is fantastic for Tropius. Continuing to collect useful items, I grab the Silk Scarf in Dewford Town, and then I head into Granite Cave, where I obviously have to deliver the letter to Stephen Stone. As a reward, he gives me TM47, which is Steel Wing. Alright, so let's escape rope out of here and head into the fight against Brawly. So I think it's interesting if we examine his moves on the right hand side of the screen. All of them that deal damage are fighting type moves, and of course Tropius with the flying type is going to resist these. As a result, I really don't expect this fight to be particularly difficult. After all, once I get to the Metatite, he can only deal damage with Focus Punch, so as long as I just keep attacking it with Razor Leaf, I'm going to take it out for free. I'm not really sure what I was thinking here, and I was just like, well, I'll use one growth. It would be nice to knock the Makuhita out faster. And then it lands a Focus Punch, actually doing a lot of damage. Oh well, I'm not that scared of the Makuhita. Again, it only has fighting type moves. I level up, learn Stomp in the place of Leer, and now it's time for Brawly's Ace. Razor Leaf does about a third because of Light Screen. I take a bit of damage from Vital Throw, Light Screen wears off, it eats a Citrus Berry, but then my next Razor Leaf gets a critical hit, and without Light Screen, the Makuhita faints. So that's my second badge, and with it, I'm off to Slateport City, where I can explore the museum, fight some Team Aqua Grunts, and with them out of the way, it is time to once again face Brendan. Now, I don't expect him to be too difficult in this fight, because the Combuskin, which is super effective against me with its Fire-type moves, well, it's also the fighting type, so I should be able to do, unless I select Razor Leaf accidentally and do very little damage to it. It sets up Focus Energy. By the way, it loves to do this on the first turn. I go for Gust, taking it down to red health. And then it strikes back with Ember, getting a critical hit, and Tropius goes down to 7 hit points. Alright, that's not good. While I do manage to knock it out, I'm going to have to take the Lombre out now without fainting. I go for Gust because it's super effective. However, Brendan's final Pokemon hangs on, uses Nature Power, it turns into Swift, and Tropius faints. Alright, so there's a quite obvious solution to this. Just don't use Razor Leaf on the Combuskin. That way I can knock it out with 2 hits, even when I'm confused. I move on to the Lombre, who's last. This time I have enough health to survive its hit, and with that, Brendan is defeated. Okay, so in the area surrounding Wattson, I think it makes sense to battle all of the trainers here. There are so many of them, by the way. Doing this, I'm able to level Tropius all the way up to level 29. Now, this preparation was important because Wattson is coming up next, and while the Grass type does resist electric attacks, the Flying type is weak to them, so I need all the help that I can get against him because he is usually one of the hardest gym leaders in any Hoenn playthrough. So let's see how Tropius can do. Wattson leads with Voltorb. It has 49 speed, so it moves first against Tropius and hits Spark. Luckily, it doesn't paralyze me. I strike back with Razor Leaf, taking it to yellow health, and then Voltorb uses Self-Destruct. Of course it does. Up next is Electric. This thing is not very good, so I think setting up Growth here to improve my damage with Razor Leaf is going to be the best play. So this thing can hit me with Shockwave to do decent damage, but it also loves to use Howl, which is really strange because Quick Attack isn't that good. I get set up so that I have +4 in my special attack, and then I use Razor Leaf to knock it out in the single hit. Okay, so I have a lot of special attack and more than half health left over for the Magneton. I go for Razor Leaf, and I knock it out in one hit, likely because I got a critical hit. So there's a Generation 3 crit, which takes into account my special attack modifiers. It is so nice to have that be the case. Last, of course, is Manectric. It goes for Shockwave, which does only a little bit of damage. I hit Razor Leaf, and it goes down in a single hit. So, Tropius, a flying type, was able to defeat Wattson on its first attempt, and with that badge, I have earned a 10% boost to my speed stat. However, once again slowing me down is Tropius's growth rate, so I should fight all of the trainers on the next routes. Of course, a lot of these allow me to level up quite quickly because their Pokemon take a lot of damage from my grass-type moves, and here I get a chance to learn Magical Leaf. So I should talk about this move. It's essentially a grass-type Swift, so it's like Aerial Ace and Shockwave. I had to think carefully about if Razor Leaf or Magical Leaf was going to be more useful, and in the end I thought that the increased accuracy and the ability to completely bypass the check itself was going to be more useful, so I teach this move in the place of Razor Leaf. After that I chat with this guy. By the way, he gives me TM43, which is Secret Power. After you've talked to him, you can head back to Slateport City and get the TM for Hidden Power. Unlike in my Generation 2 playthroughs, Hidden Power is allowed. That's just because I'm only doing one playthrough in Pokemon Emerald. These runs take a long time. After all, with the current time on the clock in Pokemon Yellow, Victory Bell was nearing the end of the game. Okay, so now with that out of the way, let's take a gondola ride up to the top of Mount Chimney to face Maxie. Magical Leaf is actually quite useful in this fight because the Mightyena loves to use Sand Attack. Actually, in this case, it just goes for Bite, like whatever, fine. I take it out with 2 more uses of Magical Leaf. Camerupt is next. Now it takes neutral damage from Grass-type moves because it is part Ground-type. Also, Tropius is taking very little damage from Ember. That's because my special defense is so fantastic. I finish off the Camerupt, move on to the Zubat, use Stomp against it, doing more than half. Zubat hits Wing Attack twice, but it really doesn't matter, and I finish Maxie off. Okay, so it's time for Flannery's gym. Everyone has mentioned to me that this place is supposed to be a sauna. And these are little like pools that you would like sit in and like warm up, that sort of thing. But like if you do that, like how do you go to a different floor by walking into one? Like I really don't understand the physics of this area. It is so strange. Anyways, before this battle, I should prep by teaching Tropius Secret Power. This is going to be a better normal type move than Stomp because it can cause paralysis. It has a 30% chance to cause paralysis, by the way. Yes, Stomp has a chance to flinch, but paralysis is permanent and it cuts speed. So I think that that's the better play. Okay, so I'm assuming that the first 2 Pokemon on Flannery's team aren't going to be an issue, and then Magical Leaf fails to one-hit the Numel. It uses Overheat, gets a critical hit, taking Tropius all the way down to yellow health. That was really not good. Luckily for me, Flannery wastes a Hyper Potion on the Numel, and then I knock it out. Next, she sends in Camerupt. Okay, I was hoping for the Slugma. Maybe Secret Power will cause paralysis. It doesn't even do half, and I don't get paralysis, so Camerupt strikes back with Overheat, and Tropius goes down. So that is my second reset of the playthrough. I attempted the fight again, and this time Numel chooses Takedown, which is like really bad. As a result, I take it out and I have green health left over. The Camerupt sets up Sunny Day, which is a great play. Now its Overheat is going to do so much damage, and then it just uses Tackle. So I'm going to mention something really weird about Generation 3's AI here. The AI gets to roll the damage of each one of its moves before it chooses which move it uses. In this process, it rolls the accuracy of the move. So what probably happened is Camerupt rolled Overheat, saw that it got a miss, and then chose Tackle because it still wanted to do damage. Is this fair? Well, not really, but I also get badge boosts, so it's also not fair from that perspective. I finish the Camerupt off, move on to the Slugma, and here, Secret Power doesn't even one-hit it. As a result, I take a bunch of damage from Overheat, and by the time I make it to her ace, the Torkoal, things are really not looking good. This thing is a defensive beast, so I'm probably not going to do very much damage with any of my attacks. I choose Secret Power, I get the paralysis. Unfortunately, Torkoal still moves. hits overheat, gets a critical hit, and with that, Tropius faints. That's my third reset. Okay, so I think it's time to investigate an alternate strategy. In Fall Arbor Town, I can talk to this scientist after I've picked up the meteorite, and if this lady doesn't block me, that is. Anyways, after I talk to him, he exchanges the meteorite for TM27, which is Return. So against Flannery, this is going to help my damage ranges, because with the Silk Scarf, Return now has an effective power of 90, whereas Secret Power only has an effective power of 77. What I'm hoping is that I can get one hits on the Numel and the Slugma as a result. I do against her lead, then against her Camerupt I get a lucky critical hit, however it sets up a Tract, which is really annoying. Now I should mention here that I should have started with a female Tropius, but I didn't, so I'm gonna have to play with that mistake. Here Camerupt gets an overheat and Tropius goes down. In my next battle against her, I'm able to 2-hit the Camerupt with Return, which is great. Then against the Slugma I do get a 1-hit. Granted that was a crit. Last, she sends in Torkoal. Alright, so my best damage here is going to be Return, and it does like a 5th. That's like almost nothing. Feels so bad, so I'll use Secret Power and hope for the paralysis. Unfortunately, Torkoal sets up a Tract. Then it sets up Sunny Day, and with all of that, it goes for Overheat, and of course it misses. So I'm not really sure here why the Torkoal missed and didn't use Body Slam. I'm going to talk to my programmer, Wally, and maybe he'll have some insight into why this is occurring this way. I'll report back to you in the next Emerald video where it's relevant. This hasn't been going well, so I think it's time to do some training. After all, once Tropius gets to level 37, it's going to be able to learn Body Slam. This does more damage than Secret Power and almost the same amount of damage as Return with this level of Friendship. As a result, this is going to be the better move to use just because it has a 30% chance to paralyze like Secret Power. At this level with the increased power, it looks like I can 2-shot the Camerupt with Body Slam, which is much more consistent. Then I level up to level 38 over a damage rounding threshold, easily 1-shot the Slugma, and now it's time for the Torkoal again. I go for Body Slam, hoping for the paralysis. Unfortunately, I don't get it, and then Torkoal uses a Tract. That is the downside of playing a Hoenn game with a male Pokemon. I really should have started with a female Tropius. Now, despite the infatuation, I am able to get the Torkoal all the way down to red health. However, Flannery has a Hyper Potion, so she just heals it, and with that, all hope is lost. I do manage to take it back down to red health, but then Torkoal hits Overheat and Tropius faints. In moments like this where it feels like I almost won, I usually try the fight a couple more times because I'm like, I can do it again, but no, in this case, it doesn't work. I end up losing 2 more times, and then I'm like, alright, I definitely have to go and train more. At level 40, I head back to the gym, hoping that these damage ranges are going to be a little bit better. Of course, I can fairly consistently make it back to the Torkoal, and it looks like now Body Slam is doing about 1/3 to it, which is really nice. After my second hit, it looks like it might survive. It luckily uses Body Slam, so no overheat. I go for my last Body Slam, and okay, the Torkoal survives, so it is not a 3-hit with Body Slam. As a result, Flannery is able to heal. I start using Return because I really wanted the extra 6 base power, hoping that this would give me the 3-hit, but Torkoal just goes for Overheat and Tropius goes down again. I take another loss, make it back to the Torkoal. Now I'm at 10 resets. Okay, these are really starting to stack up. I guess if there was anywhere in the game where Tropius was going to struggle, it would obviously be against Flannery, so this makes sense. Now in this fight, I've got the ideal circumstance because I was able to paralyze first turn with Body Slam, and then I can start using Return so that I'm able to knock the Torkoal out in 3 hits. Just please do not use an Overheat. Instead, it goes for Body Slam, and as a result, I get in another Return, and Torkoal goes down. So, Tropius has done it. It beat Flannery with a time around 1 hour and 11 minutes. Honestly, for an Emerald playthrough with a Grass type, I'd say this is pretty good. Now it's time to backtrack through the middle of the map. This portion of the game is always quite annoying. I really wish you got Fly after Flannery. I think that would just streamline this game so much more and actually make the playthrough overall just more enjoyable. I'm not sure why the developers decided to give you Fly so late in the game. After all, in Red and Blue, they give it to you after you defeat Surge. Anyways, enough complaining about that. Now, let's face Norman. So for Norman's team, I usually like to have a Pokemon that knows Dig. This way I can play around the Slacking's Truant. However, in this case, I am just going to have to attack it every turn, but Tropius has a different way to play around it, so I'll talk about that when I get there. I get a critical hit with Magical Leaf against the Vigoroth and knock it out in one turn. Next is Linoon. Luckily, Tropius moves first. I have 2 more speed. Return does more than half, so Linoon's Belly Drum fails, and then I'm able to knock it out on the next turn. Okay, so now it's time for his Slacking. So here's my strategy for it. On the first turn, I'm going to use Magical Leaf because Slacking is going to use Counter, and this can only pay back damage if I've dealt damage with a physical move. Obviously, all Grass-type moves are special in Generation 3, so that's why I'm using Magical Leaf. Then, on the turn where it's loafing around, I'm going to use Return. It has slightly more effective power, so I'm hoping it's going to do more damage, but it looks like it's doing about the same damage. Still, I can just repeat this strategy, and by doing this, I am able to take the Slacking out, although it does take time because Norman does use 1 Hyper Potion. However, eventually it goes down, and with that, I have earned myself the 5th badge and a boost to my defense stat. In the next portion of the game, there are a lot of items to collect. If you surf east of Dewford Town and the abandoned ship, you'll come to this tiny little island. If you jump out and click on the rock, then you'll pick up a rare candy. I also grabbed the rare candy on this little island just south of Mauville City. Then I grabbed the rare candy in the Trick House, which I didn't pick up earlier, an elixir on the route heading to Fort Tree City, and with a quick rest in a healing bed, I am now ready to face the rival. Okay, so Pelipper is going to frustrate me on the first turn by just using Protect. It used Protect on the second turn. Are you kidding me? Protect should always fail on the second turn if you use it 2 times in a row. I know it has a decreased chance of working every time you use it consecutively, but like it really should just never work on the second turn. I finish the Pelipper off. Next is Combuskin. I go for Return. It does almost enough to knock it out. I get my accuracy lowered with Sand Attack, but my next return still hits, and the chicken goes down. Okay, so the only Pokemon left is Lombre. Honestly, it's not that good. It gets a bit annoying because it uses Fake Out, but once I start hitting, it goes down over 2 turns. So yeah, the rival in Generation 3 is really not that good. Alright, so let's head through Fort Tree City towards the gym. Get out of my way, Kecleon. And now I am ready to face Winona. For this battle, you'll notice that I have taught Tropius Hidden Power, and for this playthrough, I've gone with Hidden Power Fire. This is specifically because it creates great synergy on Tropius's moveset with a move like Sunny Day, because then I can use Solar Beam in 1 turn. I get boosted damage on Hidden Power, boosted healing with a move like Synthesis, and this move is also going to help me in this fight because it's going to help me defeat her Tropius and her Skarmory. If you didn't already know, Skarmory is one of the most powerful NPC Pokemon in Generation 3, and Stevens in particular is very hard to knock out with Grass-type Pokemon. Over a year ago now, when I did my Sceptile playthrough of Pokemon Emerald, I really struggled against him because I didn't have an answer, so I didn't want that to be the case today. Winona sends in Altaria. This thing usually loves to set up with Dragon Dance, so I should have time to knock it out. Unfortunately, my returns are just not quite to hitting it. As a result, I get hit by an Aerial Ace, which does half before I take it down. Last, she sends in Skarmory. I go for Hidden Power Fire, and it takes it out in a single hit. Okay, so that's my 6th badge, and with it, I have earned the right to use Fly. I head south through this beautiful route. This is probably the most aesthetically pleasing location in all of Generation 3. Like, as a kid, I would hang out here and make secret bases all the time. Actually, specifically over by this little lake. The bush just on top of it is where I always had my secret base. For whatever reason, I thought it was a really hidden location, mostly because I didn't see the ninja standing beside it. Anyways, I can pick up a rare candy here, which is useful, and then 1 south of Mount Pyre. Also right beside this is the TM for Giga Drain, so I might as well grab that now. I pick up the Acrobike because I forgot this before, but I am going to use it in future playthroughs just to navigate this terrain to get to the Magma Hideout. In here, I pick up a rare candy, and then I go up against Maxie. For this fight, you can see that I taught Tropius Aerial Ace in the place of Growth. Now, in a former playthrough, I did unlearn Growth too early, but I've learned the location of a lot more heart scales, so if I need that move back at a later point in the playthrough, I'll just use the move reminder to get access to it. I finish off his lead, Mightyena, with 1 Magical Leaf. After that, I decided to go for Return against Camerupt, but this isn't a really good idea. Instead, I'll use Magical Leaf. I know it's neutral, but in this case it gets a critical hit, so that's great. Last is Crobat. I go for Return. Looks like it's going to be a 3-hit. Just have to not hit myself in confusion here. I do twice. Crobat hits an Air Cutter, taking me down to red health, and yeah, okay, so I hit myself again in confusion, and a second Air Cutter ends the battle. Alright, so losing to Maxie never feels particularly good, but I make it back to the Crobat in the next battle. This time I'm not confused, but my health isn't great. Crobat goes for Wing Attack twice. Luckily, Tropius hangs on with 2 hit points, but that's it because I don't have enough health to keep going. I tried again. This time Maxie sends in Crobat before the Camerupt, so I do get to defeat it, but then once his Camerupt comes out, I don't have enough health and it finishes me off. Okay, so how am I gonna win this one? It is so rare that I have to strategize for Maxie. Well, here's a potential. If the Mightyena uses Swagger to boost Tropius' attack stat, then I will be able to do more damage with Return. I finish off his lead. I did get confused here, but luckily I snap out on the final turn, so going into the battle with the Camerupt, I'm pretty confident. I use Magical Leaf, get a lucky critical hit, and it goes down. Okay, so it's time for the Crobat. It strikes first, hitting Wing Attack, doing about a quarter. I hit Return, taking Crobat all the way down to red health. Max uses a Super Potion, and as a result, I get another Return in and finish him off. Definitely a harder fight than I was expecting, but luckily Matt's up next, and he is all style and no substance, so I defeat him easily, and now I can head to Tate and Liza's gym to take on what is usually the hardest battle in all of Hoenn. So as this battle starts, I'll let you know what I've started to learn about this fight. Normally having rest is very important because you want to be able to last as long as possible in the fight and heal up when you get to say like the Lunatone and the Soul Rock. But today I'm not sure if that's going to work because the Soul Rock does have Flamethrower and it usually uses this after it gets boosted by the sun. Because I have super effective damage against the Claydol, I take it out with a single Magical Leaf. Next, they send in Soul Rock. Xatu sets up with Calm Mind. I use Magical Leaf to try and knock their Rock type out without sustaining damage from Flamethrower, and I get it. Okay, so that's really good. Tropius might be able to do this. Lunatone's next. Xatu sets up Sunny Day. That's like one turn too late. My Magical Leaf hits, but of course this thing is more specially defensive. It sets up with Calm Mind. Lunatone heals with a Citrus Berry, and I think this takes it out of heal range for their items, which is perfect because I can knock it out on the next turn with Magical Leaf. Okay, so since Xatu has been setting up so much with Calm Mind, let's use Return to take it out. I do more than half with my first hit. It just sets up one more time and then I finish it off. Okay, I beat Tate and Liza on my first attempt. Well done, Tropius. After that, I head to the Space Center where I take on Maxie and Tabitha alongside Steven Stone. So this is one of the mandatory double battles in Emerald, and honestly, it's usually really easy. After all, their Mightyenas really love to use Swagger on the Metang to boost its attack, and then it starts just like sweeping through their Pokemon. There's not really a way to prevent this. Like, I guess I could knock Steven's Pokemon out myself, but then this fight might be even more challenging than Tate and Liza, and that just feels very wrong. I think in this case, it is a solo playthrough with Tropius because that is the only Pokemon that I am using. Also, I will mention with double battles, I am not sure how to do things on my overlay. Like, in this case, we see Maxie's team on the right-hand side of the screen, but we don't see Tabitha's team. Also, I'm not really sure how to display type effectiveness in the power of the moves, so I've just turned that off for now because it seems kinda wonky if I'm displaying type effectiveness based on one of their Pokemon but not the other, and then if I had to display type effectiveness based on both Pokemon, it would get pretty cluttered and I think it would look bad. Alright, so I've bought a lot of time by rambling about some overlay development stuff. Anyways, at this point, later on in the fight, I was starting to get worried because I'm at yellow health. Then Camerupt knocks the Metang out. Luckily, Steven has more Pokemon, so he sends in a Skarmory. I go for Return, finishing off the Camerupt, but Maxie still has a Crobat. Please, Maxie, don't be as bad as you were last time. I really don't want to have to do this fight too many times. Crobat moves first, hits Wing Attack, takes Tropius down to red health. I'm confused, and I hit myself. So yeah, I lost the double battle with Steven Stone. That hurts. In the next fight, Steven is in even worse shape because he sent out his Aggron. Okay, please, Crobat, do not knock me out. I go for Return, it does half. Crobat uses Mean Look, and then Aggron uses Thunder. I always find it so weird that this thing knows this move. Anyways, it does enough damage, and with that, we've defeated Maxie. Alright, so now should be the portion of the game that gets significantly easier for Tropius because there is too much water. Also, there's a bunch of rocks, and if you didn't know, grass is super effective against rocks. May is clearly a grass type because she's green. I have to take on Archie to finish off the plot line. He does have a Crobat, so like this could be worrying, but luckily I take it out with green health remaining. All that's left over is Sharpedo. I defeat it, and with that I'm able to release Kyogre. We watch an awesome cinematic. Again, this thing just really impressed me as a kid. Rayquaza comes in, completing this triad and saving the day, and now it's time to take on Juan. I think it's Juan, right? Everyone's been saying I pronounce Juan wrong. Okay, so yeah, I'll take another shot at that introduction, and now it's time to take on Juan. So this one should be pretty easy for Tropius. After all, Juan's lead is Love Disc, and last week we found out that this Pokemon is not very good. Plus I added Sunny Day to my moveset for this battle so that I can lower the power of Water-type moves. Love Disc does 2 damage with Water Pulse as a result, and then I use Magical Leaf to finish it off. Up next is Celio, and once again Magical Leaf gets the 1 hit, and with it out of the way, it's time for Wallace's ace, Kingdra. I go for Magical Leaf, it does about a third, and then my brain sort of breaks. I use Aerial Ace because I'm like, I gotta bypass accuracy checks. You know, former Scott from the past, Magical Leaf bypasses accuracy checks. Just keep using that move because you have the Miracle Seed. Anyways, this is almost going to rival the Venomoth meme on my channel at some point in the near future, because it seems like whenever accuracy or evasion are at play, my brain just sort of breaks and forgets which moves are the best. I've missed Feint Attack so many times in Generation 2. Thanks for mentioning it to me every time it happens in the comments. I really appreciate that. And my ego does too. And you know what my ego appreciates even more? Well, losing to Juan with a grass type. So I didn't want to go back to Mauville City, grab the Mach Bike, and then go through the Safari Zone to get the TM for Solar Beam. I figured it would just be much faster to use the move reminder instead. So obviously this is what I need to defeat Juan, right? Solar Beam is going to do massive damage to all of his Pokemon. Then once the Kingdra comes out, I have Aerial Ace, of course, because Magical Leaf would definitely not be better in this situation. However, here we see a problem with the combination of Sunny Day and Solar Beam. And that's the fact that when Sunny Day fades at the wrong time, things can get really tricky because what am I supposed to use against the Kingdra now? If I use Solar Beam, then I have to charge. I try going for it, Kingdra uses Ice Beam, and Tropius goes down. Okay, second loss to the Water-type gym leader. Hopefully I'll be able to defeat him on the 3rd attempt. But no, I'm not able to defeat him. Ice Beam is just too strong. Also, I made all kinds of wonky misplays in this battle. So yeah, I guess we gotta figure out how to beat him. So with my metaphorical tail between my legs, I go back to the move reminder and I'm like, hey, can you teach me growth as well? Growth is really gonna help. In this case, I think that deleting Hidden Power makes sense. After all, I can just get that back with another TM later on. Okay, so this should be what I need to defeat Juan. I can use Growth to set up on the Love Disc. After that, I should be able to sweep through the rest of his team. Sometimes with setup, I go a little bit extreme and go all the way to +6 just to ensure that I get the 1-hits. But in this case, Love Disc has actually dealt a decent amount of damage to Tropius, largely because of confusion. So I'm going to start sweeping with +4. Solar Beam takes out the Love Disc, Celio's next, it goes down as well, and then Juan sends in Kingdra. Okay, Solar Beam, please do this. It hits, and the Kingdra goes down. Okay, perfect. Whiscash is next. I 1-hit it. Last is Crawdaunt. Unfortunately, Sunny Day's out, so I decide to use Aerial Ace. And this is really annoying because Juan uses 2 Hyper Potions on it. I really should have just gone for a 2-turn knockout with Solar Beam. Anyways, at least I take the victory. So with that, I've completed the gym challenge and gained access to Victory Road. In here, I of course have to face Wally. He should be pretty easy. Actually, my moveset right now is quite good. Sunny Day, Growth, and Solar Beam are actually great together. You really don't want Solar Beam to be getting a 2-hit, especially because you're relying on the sun to be able to move every turn. Aerial Ace is probably the most reliable stab flying damage that I have, so it's really good against Pokemon that are weaker to physical attacks, or the plentiful double team users in the league. Like, so many of the Elite Force Pokemon have double team in this generation. Yeah, the developers were dedicated to frustrating the player. So yeah, Wally sends in Magneton. Magneton. Tropius is above half health. They go for Solar Beam. It takes the bolts down to red health. They strike back with Thunderbolt, and Tropius gets brought to 45 hit points, so this is under a quarter. Then, Wally uses a full restore on Magneton, meaning it's gonna survive my next Solar Beam. I was really worried here, but then I get a critical hit and knock it out. Okay, so no loss to Wally. He sends out Gardevoir last, I still have the Sun, I hit Solar Beam, and that's it. Using the powers of video editing, Wally's sprite transforms into this cool trainer. I just cut to the end of the league, actually. And here I was like, I'm almost level 58. I might as well go over the damage rounding threshold before I fight Sydney. So I save, and then I decide to face this guy. Okay, Slacking's first, so I might as well set up Sunny Day here. It goes for Ice Beam. This thing has Ice Beam. That is really not nice. Luckily, I do survive. I hit Solar Beam, and oh, it doesn't knock it out. Well, I guess I'm going to move first on the next turn. Okay, he goes for full restore, so he heals. That means Slacking survives my Aerial Ace, but luckily I am able to take it out on the next turn with Solar Beam. Alright, so all that's left is Dusclops. I should make quick work of this thing. It goes for Protect. Of course it does. That foils my Solar Beam. The sunlight fades. Okay, let's do Aerial Ace. It doesn't do half, are you kidding me? And then Dusclops poisons Tropius with Toxic. Now if I use Solar Beam, it's going to take 2 turns. But if I crit with Aerial Ace, I could knock this thing out. I try that, it doesn't do enough damage. I take poison damage. I've run out of PP for Aerial Ace. And as a result, Tropius ends up losing. It is really good that I saved for this fight, because if I hadn't, I would have to go back before Wally, and that would have lost a lot of time. Knowing that this fight is going to be pretty tricky, in the next battle I play more carefully, and I am able to take the win. So now, without delaying any longer, let's take on the league. So Sydney's up first. I don't expect him to be too difficult. After all, I have Aerial Ace, which is super effective against the Shift Tree and the Cacturn, and then Solar Beam is super effective against the Crawdaunt. Unfortunately for me, I tried to set up Growth on the Mightyena, which by the way is a terrible idea because then I'm just going to miss all the time. After all, this thing loves to hit you with Sand Attack. So because of that, I end up losing in my first fight. In the second fight, I was like, well, I'll just go for Aerial Ace, knock the Mightyena out right away, but since I got hit by Intimidate, this move is doing very little damage, and yeah, then I'm gonna have to set up Sunny Day, and by this point, I might as well have just set up Growth because things have got really bad. In this case, I knock the Absol out in a single hit, move on to the Shift Tree, and I can take it down with 2 uses of Aerial Ace. Okay, Cacturn time, 2 Aerial Aces connect against it and finish it off, and all that's left is the Crawdaunt. So I don't want to try and set up Sunny Day again here, I might as well just go for Solar Beam, but okay, it misses. So setting up Sunny Day was definitely the correct play. As a result, Crawdaunt gets set up with Swords Dance, and yeah, another water Pokemon beats Tropius. However, there is a simple solution for this. When the Cacturn comes out, I can just set up Sunny Day once against it. After all, its best attacking move is Feint Attack. So yeah, I finish it off. After that, with the Sun on my side, and because Crawdaunt loves to set up Swords Dance, I'm able to take it out. Next in the league, of course, is Phoebe. Now, the first Dusclops always uses Protect on the first turn, so I can use this as a chance to set up. Either I'm going to choose Growth or Sunny Day here. I chose Sunny Day because I really don't want to have to use it on the second turn when this Dusclops could set up Curse. Because Phoebe's team is 5 Pokemon long, if it does this against you when you're doing a solo playthrough, you automatically lose. That is, unless you have Resto Chesto strats on your side. Unfortunately, because Dusclops is quite defensive, I'm not able to one-shot it with Solar Beam, and as a result, this fight gets a little bit more extended and then eventually it uses Curse, so I just reset. I tried again, and in the next fight I figured something out. So if I use Solar Beam, the Dusclops goes to red health and then she uses a healing item, but instead I can use Aerial Ace so that it's not in healing range, and then use Solar Beam to finish it off. That's a cute little way to play around the AI's healing. I actually remember using this kind of strategy all the time when I was a kid. It's really funny that I don't do it that much anymore. Bayonet comes out, it uses Grudge, which is pretty annoying, so I use Growth to set up a little bit more. Might as well one hit once the time comes. But this thing just keeps using Grudge. Eventually it uses Will-O-Wisp, burning Tropius, and okay, that's not good. As a result, the sun isn't on the field yet, so I can't move with Solar Beam, and Bayonet hits Shadow Ball, which knocks Tropius out. Okay, so I skipped another reset to a Bayonet. Yeah, Dusclops just uses Curse, so that's another reset. This fight is really not going well. So here's the strategy I need to go for. First turn, Growth. Second turn, Sunny Day, so I have the longest possible time with this move set up. Then I'm going to use Solar Beam. Unfortunately, Dusclops uses Protect, preventing me, but my next one hits, and because of the growth, I'm able to one-shot. Okay, it's time for her Ace Dusclops. One growth just barely doesn't give me the range that I need on this thing, so I take damage from Ice Beam, but finish it off on the next turn. Okay, time for her Bayonets. Here, I reestablish Sunny Day, and then I'm going to set up with Growth until it uses Will-O-Wisp. That way, Grudge won't deplete my PP. I knock it out with one hit, I knock the Sableye out with one hit, and then against the final Bayonet, things were really close. But luckily for me, I'm able to take it down, and Tropius survives the fight with a burn at 5 hit points. Alright, Glacia is next, and while 3 of her Pokemon are water types, which might make you a little bit confident here, yeah, Tropius takes 4 times damage from ice moves, so this is likely going to be a struggle. Now, despite the first Celio knowing Ice Ball, I think that it's going to go for Hail first turn, so I go for Growth, and luckily it does go for Hail. Then I can cancel this out by using Sunny Day, allowing my Solar Beam to hit every turn. That does mean that I get hit by 1 Ice Ball, but luckily Tropius has the special defense to shrug it off, and I knock her lead out with Solar Beam. So that's a pretty good start to the fight. Next, she sends in her second Celio, which has Blizzard. Luckily, once again, Solar Beam gets the 1 hit, and now it's time for her ace, Wall Rain. I go for Solar Beam, and it takes it down. Perfect! This is going really well. Alright, time for her first Glalie. The best Ice-type move that it has is Ice Beam. I go for Solar Beam, and it gets the 1 hit. Alright, I've made it all the way to her last Pokemon, but the sunlight fades. Okay, that's not ideal. I think I'm going to lose if I take 2 Ice Beams here, so I just go for Solar Beam. But Glalie hits an Ice Beam, and this does enough to finish Tropius off. I tried this fight again. I was thinking that on the second Celio, I could reestablish Sunny Day and reset the counter, but it only works if the sunlight has already faded. So my Sunny Day just fails, and then I get hit by a Blizzard. By the way, I didn't know this thing had Blizzard when I was playing the challenge. I only saw that in post. As a result, once again, I lose. Okay, so a potential way to get by the Glalies is to use Hidden Power instead of Solar Beam. I'm going to teach this in the place of Aerial Ace. After all, I've got by most of the annoying double team users in the league to this point. Same strategy as before, first turn Growth, second turn Sunny Day, and then use Solar Beam to sweep through her water type Pokemon. After that, Glalie comes out, the sunlight is strong, so I'm getting boosted damage on Hidden Power Fire. This does actually make it slightly stronger than Solar Beam. I go for it, and the Glalie goes down. Alright, so I've made it back to her last one, and in this case, since the sun has faded, Hidden Power Fire is going to allow me to hit twice, and maybe since it's super effective, I will get the 1 hit, but I don't. Glalie hangs on with red health, and as a result, I'm not going to be able to do this. Because I almost got the KO, I think if I go over 2 damage rounding thresholds to level 63, I will be doing enough damage with 1 use of Hidden Power to be able to one-shot the final Glalie. My strategy allows me to get back to it fairly consistently, and yeah, I forgot to teach Hidden Power. So yeah, I guess I'm just here at level 63. I guess I do have more HP and more special defense, so maybe I can survive the Ice Beam and hit a Solar Beam. Nope, doesn't look like that's possible. Okay, so this time, I'm actually going to teach Hidden Power in the place of Aerial Ace. I make it back to the final Glalie. This time I actually have a lot of health too, and I should note that I've given Tropius the Charcoal to boost Hidden Power's damage even more. I go for it, and it finishes off her last Pokemon. Alright, so it is time for Drake. He's another trainer that loves to use Protect on the first turn, and as a result, I'm able to set up Growth. I decided that I should probably set up Growth more than once here, because after all, his Dragon-type Pokemon resist Solar Beam and Hidden Power. Unfortunately for me though, the Shelgon is going for Rock Tomb because it's super effective, and because of that, I'm having my speed lowered. Also, his Dragon Pokemon are quite fast, and Tropius is not known for its speed, so this fight is not going to work out. I tried the fight again, this time remembering that I have the ability Chlorophyll. What I can do now is set up Growth first turn to boost my damage just slightly, then set up Sunny Day to boost Tropius' speed, and this allows me to move first against the Flygon. Yes, I do know that Chlorophyll is not factoring into my overlay calculations, at least in this video. By the time I'm recording this voiceover, it is March 15th today, I have developed the features that allow abilities to impact stats and so on. There's actually a lot of new updates coming to all of my overlays very soon. If you're curious about what some of them are, go check out my Lapras live stream. Altaria comes out. I really don't want to use Solar Beam against this thing. It has a double resistance to it. And yeah, as a result, I'm stuck using Return, which is not doing very much damage. And Tropius is left on red health by the time the Salamence comes out. It hits Intimidate, which is going to make Return do almost no damage. Solar Beam has quarter damage here, and yeah, I just get taken out by a critical hit because I'm slower. Okay, so it is time to use all my rare candies. By the way, I reset over the rare candies that I used for Glacia that one time, so if I use a bunch of the ones that I've collected to this point, I'm going to level up all the way to 70. This is over a lot of damage rounding thresholds, so it should be enough. Like, hopefully it's enough. My moveset is not very good against Drake. This is one of these instances where I'm thinking maybe I should have gone Hidden Power Ice just for this fight. Yeah, it's terrible. Like, what do I do against the Altaria and the Salamence? Honestly, I don't know, because I lose again. And then I decide to come back into the battle without feeding my rare candies. I have the intent here to black out so that I can do more training and come back to the league at a higher level. So that's it. Let's go and do some training. Normally, I don't like to do things this way because if I just reset a couple times, hope for a little bit better luck, or figure out a better strategy, then I'm able to get through with less real time spent and less game time spent. Obviously, having to black out and save over it increments the game time, so yeah, there's going to be a lot more of that for Tropius. Luckily for it, it's a grass type, and there's, if you didn't know already, a lot of water in these games, and a lot of water type Pokemon. Like, there are so many water type Pokemon. Is water type the most plentiful type in the games? I'm pretty sure that it is. Doing this training, I level Tropius all the way up to level 65, so it's 5 levels higher now. And then I head back into the league, making quick work of Sydney. Okay, Phoebe's next. She could be slightly problematic if the Dusclops uses Curse, and it does in my first fight. Okay, so I guess that's a reset. However, in the second battle, she doesn't use Curse, and as a result, I'm able to take a victory over her. This levels Tropius up to level 66. Like, if I had fought both Sydney and Phoebe with a Pokemon that wasn't the slow growth rate, I would have been at least level 67 by this point. Glacia is easy now that I'm at a higher level, and after that I use my rare candies, taking Tropius all the way up to level 77 for Drake. Please let this be enough, like please. First turn growth while Shelgon uses Protect, but what I realized here is because of Chlorophyll, I think I can set up growth at least one more time. I don't want the Shelgon to lower my speed, but if it does, then I can start attacking. After one more growth, I was like, okay, I should probably set up Sunny Day now and like keep going. The Shelgon uses Protect, which is perfect, and then I use Solar Beam, which knocks it out. Okay, Flygon's next. I'm faster because of Chlorophyll. I knock it out in a single hit, and then Altaria comes in. For this battle, I have saved Hidden Power Fire. It does more damage than Solar Beam, and then I have a move that doesn't get affected by Intimidate. Also, I can use it even if Sunny Day isn't on the field. Yes, it'll do less damage, but it doesn't require one turn of setup. With it, I'm able to two-shot the Altaria and move on to the Salamence. Okay, so I get hit by Intimidate, but it doesn't matter, and the Sunlight fades, which is really disappointing. Now, this thing doesn't have any good flying moves, which is good for me because it's going to use either Flamethrower or Rock Slide. Unfortunately for me, I'm faster than the Salamence, so I set up Sunny Day and then it uses Flamethrower, doing about a third to Tropius. I guess maybe I didn't need that setup because Hidden Power does more than half to the Salamence. I think without Sunny Day I could have just two-hit it. But it eats its Citrus Berry, so maybe not. But still, the extra damage from Hidden Power lets me finish it off on the next turn. Okay, all that's left is Kingdra. I go for Solar Beam and it goes down. And with that, I have made it to the champion, Wallace. Okay, so the champion here is a water type user, of course. And you know what Tropius has been struggling against just slightly in this playthrough? Yeah, water types. So hopefully that is not going to be the case against Wallace. First turn I go for Sunny Day, and then the Wailord uses Blizzard, doing half to Tropius. So that's not good. Luckily, Solar Beam is able to one-shot. Next, he sends in Milotic, Solar Beam one hits, and then it's time for the Tentacruel. Now, I wasn't sure if Solar Beam was going to one-shot the Tentacruel because this thing has very nice special defense, and it's also the poison type, so it takes neutral damage from grass type moves. And nope, Solar Beam doesn't get the KO. Tentacruel uses Ice Beam, but Tropius survives on 18 hit points. Wallace uses a full restore, but unfortunately for me, this stalls out the sun. Now, I didn't reset Sunny Day because I was like, maybe Hidden Power Fire will just take the Tentacruel out, but Wallace uses another full restore, and Hidden Power Fire does almost nothing to the jellyfish. So that's an embarrassing loss, and Wallace actually styles all over me. He uses Hydro Pump and knocks out Tropius. Okay, so Tropius is struggling at least a little bit against these water types. I think it's really interesting that the water type is sort of paired with the ice type. Like in Generation 1, the ice type is very commonly paired with the water type, and all water types get access to ice type moves. This makes sense, of course, because the ice type moves give the water type Pokemon coverage against grass type Pokemon like Tropius. Now in this fight, I have taught Tropius Fly. This is just for some extra physical damage because I think I'm going to need it against the Ludicolo. But before I get there, I need to knock the Tentacruel out, and so I set up one extra growth this time, and this gives Solar Beam the damage range that it needs to one-shot. Now it's time for the Ludicolo. I go for growth once, just might as well set up. Then after that, I set up Sunny Day, and then I go for Fly, which is probably ill-advised because it's set up double team, but I still hit and get the one-shot. Okay, so there's only 2 Pokemon left. First is Whiscash, which obviously is an easy one-shot with Solar Beam, and now it's time for the Gyarados. Its Intimidate lowers my attack stat, but I don't need that because I'm going to be using Solar Beam anyways, and in this case, I get a critical hit, finishing it off. So, Tropius has defeated the champion. But there is still one more fight to go, and that's against Steven Stone in Meteor Falls. Okay, here we go. The toughest trainer in Emerald. He leads with a Skarmory, and this is the Pokemon that I specifically have Hidden Power Fire for. However, its strengths don't really lie in the fact that it can deal that much damage, so I feel safe setting up some growths here. Looks like Aerial Ace is doing just over a quarter, so after 2 uses of growth, I set up Sunny Day, and now hopefully I am ready to sweep. Hidden Power Fire hits the Skarmory and knocks it out in a single hit. Next is Claydol. Obviously, Solar Beam is going to one-shot this thing. Okay, so it's time for the Cradily. By the way, because it's a grass rock type, it is going to take neutral damage from Hidden Power Fire and neutral damage from Solar Beam. Obviously, I'm a grass type and I have the Miracle Seed, so Solar Beam is the right choice here. It gets the one-shot. Armaldo's next. What typing is this thing? It's like, I don't know, like, it looks like a Rock Steel type. It's on Steven's team. It's probably Rock Steel. I go for Solar Beam, knock it out in one hit, and now it's time for Aggron. This thing helped me out earlier on by using its Thunder, but I really don't want it to do that now. Because I don't have Sun on my side, I have to take in Sunlight. Aggron goes for Thunder, it hits, it doesn't actually do that much, and then my Solar Beam connects, knocking it out. Alright, so I have made it to Steven's final Pokemon on my first attempt. This is going really well. Of course, Hidden Power is the right choice here. I use it, and it does so much. But Metagross survives on red health, strikes back with Meteor Mash, and Tropius faints. Alright, so I was able to get really far into that fight. I think what I need is just a little bit more sustain. Probably don't need more damage. So I can take the Miracle Seed off and instead give the leftovers. However, then in the next fight I realize a problem with my initial strategy. If the Skarmory goes for Toxic, then I just can't heal and I'm going to lose. I thought that maybe I could just luck around this, so I attempted the fight again and got poisoned, like, This happened twice, so obviously the right choice here is the Pecha Berry. That way I can set up until the Skarmory uses Toxic. It used Toxic right away. Are you kidding me? Okay, I guess I'm going to have to push the luck a little bit, try and get a second growth just for damage. I really do think I need it. Skarmory hits Aerial Ace. Okay, it's good that wasn't Toxic. I get very greedy here. Setting up growth one more time. One more Aerial Ace connects, and then I go for Sunny Day. Alright, now that I'm at low health, it is time to sweep. I knock the Skarmory out, and with that we are going to cut later on into the fight when Steven sends out Aggron. There are only 2 Pokemon left, this one and his Metagross, but unfortunately I don't have the Sun on my side. I decided to go for Hidden Power to see how much damage it would do to the Aggron. Not enough apparently, and it hits Thunder, but Tropius survives on 7 hit points. I go for Hidden Power again, and Steven starts using full restores, but because I'm faster, I am able to eventually take it out after like a ridiculous number of full restores. Like, why does this man have so many full restores? It's probably because his dad is rich. Okay, so I've made it to the Metagross. I am faster than it, and I will note that Tropius just leveled up to 79, and I have 1 more speed. So this is a razor thin margin. Look at my health, look at my speed, look at Metagross's speed, and remember the fact that last time I only had +2 special attack. So with my speed, I'm able to move first, and with +3, I am able to one-hit with Hidden Power. So Tropius has done it. It has beaten Pokemon Emerald. It clocks in with a time of 3 hours, 11 minutes, and 21 seconds with 38 resets at level 79. This took 10 hours and 30 minutes of game time. So this is my 18th Pokemon Emerald playthrough. I did complete this playthrough back in early February. That's because for the last 2 months I have mostly just been programming and improving the overlay. Alright, so what ranking did these results earn Tropius? Well, when we rank with real time, it was slower than both Ludicolo and Shiftry, two other grass types, but slightly faster than Sableye. This earns it overall 12th spot in the real-time rankings. If we rank it with game time, which in some ways is more fair since I'm very new to Pokemon Emerald, in this case it ranks 14th, above only Love Disc. But granted, it is significantly better than Love Disc. It's much closer to Pokemon like Shiftry and Swampert. Okay, before I close this video out, I just want to give a quick update on my voice. I am off to the doctor tomorrow to check it out. Hopefully they will have some good news for me or a treatment plan. At very least, my voice has been feeling much better this week. I've been taking a better pace at things, and despite really wanting to, I did not do any extra streams. I'm optimistic right now that I'm going to heal quite quickly. Thank you all so much for your suggestions about how to take care of my voice. I really do appreciate it. So with that, like, subscribe, ring the chime echo, and comment because I try to read them all. I am actually almost through all the comments you left in December. Also, if you support me on Patreon or through YouTube memberships, thank you so much, especially during this tough time with my voice. I really appreciate the support. If you made it this far, you're incredible. I'll see you in my next video.